I want to turn now to Democratic Congressman Stephen Horsford. He's the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus here with us this evening. Congressman, thank you for being here. It is difficult to watch this happen. We go from never again to once again. And in that space and in that vein, legislation possibly could fill that gap. I do wonder what your reaction is into what can be done at a legislative level to go from once again back to never again.
Well, first, thank you for having me on. On behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus, we are committed to doing everything we possibly can, working across party lines with the president, with our community and the families to uplift their voice. I spoke to Tyre Nichols' father and his mother by phone on Sunday to hear directly from them, to express our condolences on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus and to ask them, what do they want? And what they told me first is to remind people who Tyre Nichols was. He was a son, he was a father, he had purpose and passion and a life ahead of him. He loved skateboarding and photography. And while going to his mother's home, just 80 yards away, he was pulled away for a supposed traffic violation that resulted in him being beaten, and in the course of that, yelling out, "Mama," and he ended up dying a few days later. Yes, bad policing practices are happening in Memphis, but the problem is too many of these incidents are happening all over America. Now, this is something that all of us should be able to agree. Bad policing shouldn't exist anywhere in America. This is not a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. This is about safety. All of us should want safety. And as a Black man, as a father, as someone who has responsibility to serve my constituents, I want them to come home safe. A parent wants a child who leaves to go to the park to come home at the end of the day. All of us want to be able to live in our homes in peace. And if you're stopped in a traffic violation or not, it should not result in you being beaten and ultimately die. And so we are working across legislative solutions. We've talked to the president around executive actions that he can take and the administration can take.
What did the president say about that?
So we talked to the president twice today. I did. First is he is very committed to this issue. We asked him to make this issue of the culture of policing one of the issues that he addresses in his State of the Union, because this is important enough for it to be a part of his national address. We also are meeting with him later this week to talk about what additional actions he can possibly take. Commend him for the actions he did last May, but we believe there's more that can be done while we work on a bipartisan solution in Congress. We also reached out and have a meeting with Senator Tim Scott tomorrow and in the coming days to talk about a bipartisan solution in Congress. It's going to take all of us. This is not a Black issue or a white issue. This is about a safety issue in America.
Do you get a sense that there is an appetite for this to be a bipartisan endeavor as well? Oftentimes we hear about, and the word anecdote comes to mind, that people will relegate instances like this as, oh, this is anecdotal, and they'll disparage the notion of the bad apple conversations. But you speak about this in a very holistic way. Is there an appetite for Republicans who are in power in the House to see it that way?
You know, I have to remain optimistic. People told us we weren't going to pass a comprehensive gun safety bill. We passed the most comprehensive bill in nearly 30 years. The president was involved in that. We brought both sides together. We passed the infrastructure bill. They told us we couldn't do that. We must make our community safer. And all of us should agree bad policing shouldn't exist anywhere in America. One of the other reports that have been shared with me is the fact that in Memphis, for example, the use of force is used 3 times more often on Black people, Black residents, than on white people in Memphis. They know that. We should know that about every law enforcement agency across America. That's about having the data to then make good decisions on pattern of practices. Some cities and law enforcement agencies do this, others don't. That's why we need federal action as one example of a holistic plan.
I mean, the idea of trying to do away with a patchwork of systems, I mean, trying to police a patchwork of police departments and hope for a uniform standard is really an exercise in futility. So I hope there is some comprehensive legislation that is, in fact, coming. Thank you for your optimism. It's exactly what we need to have. I mean, if we stop and give up, then where will we be?
The American people are counting on us, and we're going to work tirelessly across the aisle with all of our stakeholders. And I'll just say one more thing. The American people have a stake in this, too. Call your member of Congress, call your senator, reach out about what you want to have done. Lift up the family of Tyree Nichols and every other family that's been affected, but all of us can do something to get rid of bad policing in America.
Congressman, thank you for your time. Nice speaking with you today.